The Point After Show.
He's going savage.
Run for your life!
And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. Playoffs? What talk about? Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
The Point After Show.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
The Point After Show.
Spikes in hell. Spikes in pee-wee hell.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Point After Show. It's been a little hiatus. We haven't talked to you guys in about 2 years, and I think the last time that we were all together, we were talking the 2018 March Madness tournament. But we're back, and hopefully we'll be better than ever. We all know that Tommy's looking better than ever over there. Look at that lighting and makeup he got done for this.
Yeah, what happened, Cav, was when you guys weren't paying attention, I dwindled and snagged all the funds from the Point After Show that were laying around in the PayPal account, and I bought myself some lighting, a little green screen behind me. I have a makeup artist at the house, so thank you guys.
Yeah,
all those tens of dollars that were in the account.
It looks like you bought yourself a powder girl. Nice little, not even a sweat mark on them.
No, there's not an ounce of glare. All right, so topic one, guys. We just had our fantasy football draft a couple weeks ago, and I personally had a blast, and I'm really happy with my team.
I think you'll be the only one that says that about looking at your team, is that it's a good team, Cav. The draft was great, as always. The Lipko's Legends draft is always something that we look forward to. It's my favorite part of the season is the draft. I love that better than I actually love playing fantasy football, because usually around week 3, my team starts crumbling. I put everybody on the trade block, and it's just disaster from there.
Yeah, I was waiting for Panic Tommy to come out this year, as always, around second round. You held it together. You did a good job this year. Now we're gonna have to just probably wait till, I don't know. I mean, you're already starting to. How many more Jacksonville Jaguar running backs are you gonna pick up this offseason?
Listen, I was just looking for some value there. What I wanted to do was, they're the only team right now that hasn't set a clear-cut running back and doesn't have it rostered at this point in time. They had Devonta Freeman there this past weekend. Couldn't come up with a deal. I tried them all out, but starting running backs are scarce this year. So, yeah, I'm trying them all out.
I got 3 of them on my team.
That's using the word 3 of them loosely, though.
Maybe 4, depending on what happens in Buffalo.
You have what? You have the Carbondale area Chargers running back, the Lakeland Chiefs running back. You have the backup for Valley View, and I think Bloomsburg University. So that's your best running back, is what I would say on your roster.
Yeah, well, they're starters, aren't they?
Trying to find a diamond in the rough.
Exactly.
Eddie, I was actually looking at your draft, and even though you weren't able to grace us with your presence at draft, I think you had a solid draft. I don't
know. I have a lot of question marks. Like, I think Cam Newton, he's going to be a question mark in New England. I think Dalvin Cook, he's injury prone, and then I have like friggin' David Johnson, who knows what is going to turn out to his season. He's getting old. And Melvin Gordon in Denver now, who knows? A lot of question marks I have on my team.
I definitely agree with that.
I would. Here's what I think, though. 2020 is a question mark, right? Like, I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, we're in uncharted waters when it comes to fantasy football this year, as far as injury. The injury probability is going to be high. No offseason, no OTAs. You know what I mean? And we're already seeing it. Soft tissue injuries all over the NFL in the first 2 weeks. Then we have to worry about COVID. I know, I don't know if you guys have read this stuff, but the NFL's been doing a pretty solid job with the whole COVID and all the testing they've been doing, and there's been a very, very minimal amount of players that actually tested positive for it. But it was interesting that I was reading an article today that this week will actually be the first time in a month and a half that the players get to actually leave the hotel and go home to their families and friends and all that stuff. So now is where I think the spike in COVID could potentially happen, where these guys kind of get a little bit of run amok.
Yeah, that's one thing I would definitely say is who made that boneheaded decision, right? Is hey, you guys done a great job, and then when the season's finally about to start to happen, revenues are going to be generated at this point in time, right? They don't make any money from the off season, and it's like, go ahead, go home. I hope all the players are smart and safe, which I'm sure they're going to be. But yeah, that's definitely a weird predicament they put themselves
You're
in.
sure they're going to be smart and safe, some of these characters?
I have
don't
no
think
faith in that.
Yeah, I don't think they really have much of a choice. It's not like the NBA or hockey where they can put them in a bubble. I think that they got to let them go back home, right? Like they're not putting them in a hotel and all year long. They are going to travel. So
that's the thing. They're traveling. There's no bubble big enough for the NFL, right? Like that's not even an option. But the NBA bubble barely worked. We heard stories of people sneaking people in and the what was it, the strip club chicken wings at 3 a.m. and all those different things that were going on in the NBA. How do you have faith in? That's just you're having faith in humanity at that point, and everybody's different. Everybody's gonna do their own thing, and I think the travel aspect is the biggest one. These guys don't all live like if you live in Kansas City. The chance of you actually living there are pretty slim. If you're a rich professional athlete, you probably live somewhere else. So just going home to see their families, they're going to be traveling all over the country. A lot of these guys live in LA and Florida and places like that, or wherever, they originated from.
Yeah. So a couple things. One is piggybacking off your NBA story is you also had that girl that had 7 Utah Jazz players, right?
That was from 2018, supposedly.
Pre-COVID. Okay, perfect. But no, so I think they could kind of create a bubble, right? Is the home team be responsible for, hotel room or whatever, right? That's hotel that's specifically for just NFL players and their families, and have them in each city that there's an NFL team. So the away team that's traveling to that city can be put up in that hotel, right? It's going to be an expense for the NFL, but it's something obviously they should invest in because look at how much money's out there, right? You have all the TV rights, you have fantasy football, which is obviously what we're here to talk about tonight. And it's for the country. Let's do it. Let's get back to some football, Cav.
I think I saw there was a proposal for a bubble, and it was basically going to be 2 bubbles. They were going to use Cincinnati and I forget some other city, and it was basically like the rates had to be below wherever, and then there had to be 3 football fields available in that city, and they were going to basically play like slotted games, like one after another in the different stadiums, and try to like basically split the AFC and the NFC for the bubble thing. It just didn't logistically, like they couldn't make it work for the long term. But it was an interesting proposal to see.
I know this is a fantasy football show, but I'm curious to see what betting lines are going to look like. Like normally the home team would get an advantage because of the fans and, everything in the stadium being loud, and it's going to be weird and different this year, I think. Like just watching the NBA playoffs, seeing and even baseball games like cardboard cutouts, and they still have the announcer going for whatever reason, and they're playing the charge when there's no one in the fucking stands, which I don't understand. But it's going to be weird with just no cheering going on, no anything. I don't know.
Jerry Jones said he's filling the stadium every week, right? Said he didn't build Jerry World to be empty.
Is that like Wally World?
Yeah.
So, I guess to kind of try to drive it back into the fantasy football world, right? We talked about our draft a little bit. We touched on it. So I think a few of us, all of us, right? We've all drafted a minimum one time, but a couple times each of us have been in drafts, right? So, any takeaways going around the horn? Any takeaways from drafting this year? I mean, mostly everybody's drafts are going to be probably ending either this weekend or later on this week before Thursday night game. But any takeaways, anything that you guys were like, wow, this is just a weird situation with drafting this year?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll say one of the weirdest things to encounter, right, was a kind of an empty draft room. We're used to having our entire crew there, and then also some friends and family hanging around. But obviously that didn't happen this year. One thing that I would say sucked and is a takeaway from it is the text I sent out earlier today with ESPN's busts, right? here I am all proud and mighty with my team. And as Paul always says, I draft the old heads. Unfortunately, I drew a late pick in the draft, and with our franchises, running backs were scarce. So I had to go wide receiver, Devontae Adams at that point. So later in the draft, when it was running back time, I got Todd Gurley and Lev Bell. And here are ESPN's two biggest busts this year are Todd Gurley and Lev Bell. So, yeah, that's my biggest takeaway is I hope ESPN and their professionals are completely wrong. And I was right.
I would I'll piggyback off of your what you just said with the running backs. That was kind of what I was going to say was obviously fantasy football is typically, running back heavy early on in the drafts, but I think this year was super surprising in a lot of like the first 2 rounds are just running back filled. By the time you get to that 3rd round, as you mentioned, the running back just drops off crazy from, Lev Bell, James Conner kind of thing. Our draft, I actually went back because I have nothing better to do with my life right now in COVID, but we actually in our league, now we have, 17 roster spots, 12 players. We drafted 71 running backs in our draft, 71 versus 74 wide receivers. And we played 3 wide receivers in our league versus 2 running backs in our league. So a ton of backup running backs were drafted this year and handcuffed to handcuffs. I think with the scare of everything we talked about early on.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is half of them are on Maz's team.
That's a fair statement.
That is true.
He is the backup master. He is the guy that we're going to go to when anybody goes down. We're going to have to go to his team.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Maz's team. Cav, you're on mute. But what I want to say is that I'm not worried about Maz's team. He drafted all backup running backs, right? 2 of them didn't even make rosters when they did their 53-man cuts this past weekend. So, he's walking around sending everything out on the group text saying, text me if you need a running back. Yeah, again, if I needed a running back, I would text Cavi at that point because the Bloomsburg running back might have a chance of actually starting the NFL at some point. But, hey, that's Mazza, right? Yeah, it was funny. You see Mazza's draft, like, up, and then it was 2 sips of the next beer, and then it was like a roller coaster ride, straight down the shitter. Typical Mazza draft.
So speaking of our draft, though, so we came up with, like, the top 5 moments from our draft, right? So number 1, I think, Ed, we'll throw it to you first, is, for the first time ever, we had remote, like a significant amount of people remote drafting. Like sometimes there's one person or whatever. What was that like, kind of not knowing what was going on there and the remoteness of it is compared to knowing that like a bunch of other people were in the room?
Oh, it sucked. It was like the worst ever because normally I look forward to that day of seeing everybody because, I mean, a lot of us live in the same area, but then you get like Lawyer Pete and usually a couple buddies, Santana, and Mazza, Socks. Yeah, we get a couple buddies, and it's like the one time a year that you're going to see some people. And just this year with me and my wife Jess having a baby, it was less than 2 months before the draft date, so we were just erring on the side of caution, and she didn't have her any kind of immune shots yet or anything like that. So I was playing it safe on behalf of her.
From a strategy standpoint, though.
From a strategy standpoint,
did you find it different than being there? Not wheeling.
Yeah, because I didn't have anybody like chirping in my ear. It was nice. Like, I mean, I was still buzzing because I had to.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think I would have been as sober because I probably would have Ubered there and had a couple of shots, which I didn't do here. But I think the biggest thing was no one's yelling out stupid nonsense names, or there was no distractions that I normally would have. So I think it was a positive, but at the same time, the downside is that I didn't get to see my buddies. So.
Yeah, and I will say we did have a Happy Gilmore type esque heckler at our draft this year.
Oh, that's coming up. That's number 5 on the list.
Yeah. So Eddie, you did the right thing. You
dodged a bullet there. I heard.
Dodged a bullet.
Or a bull named Paul.
A 45 Magnum bullet. I heard.
So coming up at number 2, Mazza's running back parade. We touched on it a couple minutes ago, but Mazza just went straight running backs. Like I don't even know if he loses one wide receiver if he has anybody to put in.
So this is what I'll say about that, right? This kind of touches on number 5 again, right? I think everything goes back to number 5. Is Mazza was having a solid draft again until, like I said, he had that one sip of beer that set him over the edge, and then, like you said, the heckler kind of set him off the edge, where Mazza just stormed out of the draft room, through the backwoods, came around, went upstairs. Didn't even see him for 20 minutes. So Mazza then went down to just taking every single backup running back the NFL had to offer. So
yeah, so just to put it into perspective, Mazza drafted 9 running backs out of 17 rounds, and out of the last 7 rounds, he drafted 5 running backs in the last 7 rounds. So 9 out of 17 picks were running backs, over 50%.
It's a bold strategy.
It is a bold strategy.
I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what his game plan is going forward, right? Like I said, a couple people didn't even make 53-man rosters, so he got to drop them and actually pick up defense and defense and kicker at that point in time. But listen, they're backup running backs, right? This was the Dan Burke strategy of 2012, where he drafted like 7 tight ends, thought people were going to have to make trades, and it backfired. And I think he finished like 0-12 that year. Didn't even come close to sniffing a win, and he had the least amount of points in our league, right? That's going to be a Mazza again this year, I think. And Mazza's high on his team. Might be down this weekend for football, but I hope that happens. But, yeah, Mazza's running back situation is dismal at best.
And then so we're moving on to number 3, and a new draft weekend tradition, I think. And Ed, we're hopeful to have you with us next year. Hopefully everything's, all of us can do it and everything's back to normal. Rafting was awesome. We went rafting the day before the draft and had a blast.
Yeah, I say shout out to Ann and her friends on that one. They did this, with the COVID, everybody had to find outdoor activities. It was actually super rough to do this activity because you couldn't find any rafts anywhere. I went online, went to Dick's, went to, every single store that you might think would sell a raft. I actually had some nice guy at Bass Pro Shop. He's like, I have tractor trailer tubes at my house. You could come pick them up if you can't find anything. He gave me his number, which was super cool.
Awesome.
Thankfully I didn't need that. I just sent him hey, found him. Thanks, man. But yeah, the rafting was awesome. And yeah, getting back to socks. This is a funny story.
I, on the other hand, did find a raft. However, it looked like it was made of paper and it was a donut with sprinkles on it. So luckily Tommy had an extra one for me to use because I would have made it about 30 yards before that thing popped. Would have been a disaster. My day would have been over and ruined, and I wouldn't be having such fond memories of.
Where'd you guys go? Down the Susky?
Yellow Breeches.
Yellow Breeches.
Out by Messiah College.
Good time.
Okay. It was great. Just nice
and
slow.
Awesome. So the funny part of this story, Ed, is that Socks left work a little early that day. Told us he'd be at the house around 4 or 5. We said we'd be done rafting around 4 or 5. Well, funny part of the story is we ended up finding a cool spot to hang where obviously with 4 or 5 of us that go to Gamblers Anonymous meetings decided we're going to start throwing rocks at trees for $50 a pop. We thought we were maybe like a half mile away from the end point where we get to our cars, but realistically we're about 2 more miles up
2
river.
Hours. About 2 hours. We were
getting text messages from Socks saying, "Hey, where are you guys?" And then
he was sending that to the Lipko's Legends text thread. He's like, "Oh, you guys pulled a practical joke on me? Like, let me in the house.
My Xbox in the car is gonna melt."
Yeah, he thought his Xbox was gonna melt in the car because it's a whopping 88 degrees in Harrisburg.
Oh, yeah. That's
what did he do? Just sit outside the entire time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to know what he did. He had to sit outside, but what he did is we're going to set up.
It was 88 degrees, but somehow his car windows were still steamed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the rock throwing was great though. I didn't throw a single rock, and I still left the situation up $80.
You did.
Oh. Were you betting on other people throwing rocks?
Yeah, I was betting Tommy and Paul they couldn't hit stuff with the rocks.
Well, in our defense though, Ed, is we were trying to
lay down regulation size.
We were trying to lay down and throw rocks, and then sit down and throw rocks. It was just...
that and we were probably about 10 beers deep. Didn't make it better. I probably couldn't hit the side of it. I probably couldn't hit a car if it was parked next to me.
Almost hit a car on the right.
It was great though, because I originally made the bet for Pete, and when they threw it, they both hit it, and Pete lost the money. And then I did the double or nothing and ended up winning it. It was great. Enjoyed it. But so speaking of Pete, moving on to number 4, Lawyer Pete's epic meltdown.
Yeah, that was a Rivera special in the back of the draft room.
He lost. Listen, he lost the draft sheet. He couldn't find it. His positional draft sheet. He lost it.
He just forgot the tight ends existed.
He forgot tight ends were in our league.
So to paint the picture for everybody, we're going into round 4 here, right?
Round 3.
Round 3.
Yep.
And George Kittle and Travis Kelce are still on the board, along with a lot of other good players at this point. It's only round 3. And our buddy Lawyer Pete is working off of hard paper sheets, probably top 50 of each position. And he just lost his tight end one. Forgot the tight ends existed, and just went with Deshaun Watson as the second pick in the 3rd round. And everybody let him do it. And then Rivera.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Rivera walked over and he was like, "Hey Pete, you lost this sheet here," and gave him the tight end sheet. And it all went downhill for him from there.
Yeah, and then that's when the meltdown happened. He lost it.
The wheels fell off for Pete.
Yeah, Pete was back there puffing down Parliament lights, Ed, like a champ at that point. Like, he texted me on the ride over. He's like, "Hey, can you pick me up a pack of smokes?" Literally just puffing them. He was lighting one off the other one. That's how bad it got at that point. Until around like 6. That's when he pulled it back around and got there. Right at the ship.
I've been there.
And then by far the top, number 5 best moment of the draft, or best moments of the draft. I guess this is all one big situation. Is the heckler that then turned into a Paul and Mikey and everybody involved situation. So I don't exactly know the where this kid comes from. He's your neighbor, Tommy?
He's not a neighbor. He's a friend.
Friend. Okay. So we've all, like, many of us there had at least met him before via Zoom, as we gambled through quarantine on Zoom. And
Quiplash.
Quiplash. And so we'll just call him Tom's neighbor. Rolls into the draft. Now he's not in our league. He's not drafting. And just makes the entrance of a lifetime. Walks right to the front of the room, sits in front of the draft board, and just takes it upon himself that he is now going to put the names on the board. Now, Ed, he takes this job away from Mikey. So you can imagine how
Here's the best part, though, Eddie. The best part is, like, Mikey was pissed because we were like,
right.
"Hey, Mike, we let you in the league a couple years ago. Normally, new guy has to do it. You saw Lawyer Pete did it last year. So, here's your turn. You have to do it." He's like, "No, I don't want to do it. This is bullshit. And was crying about it. And, as soon as he got up there, he's walking. He's all proud and pumped on the sticker, man. He's like the sticker Nazi up there, No stickers for you. He's yelling at us. And then all of a sudden, like Cavi said, is here comes new guy. New guy comes in, takes over the job. And that's when
takes the reins.
Our niece was angry. And then it just went downhill from there.
So it immediately starts going downhill. We're talking like he starts playing music, just playing loud. He's critiquing every pick that anybody makes. But he's also throwing out like, "Oh, why didn't you pick this guy?" Which then's helping people like Pete who can't keep their list straight. Critiques Mazza to the point where Mazza slams his book closed and storms out of the draft for a little while, does some laps and cool stuff. Draft ends, and anybody can jump in at any point here because I don't like the truth. I don't like the truth to ever get in the way of a good story. So like I'm gonna
no. So then we're outside playing cornhole, right? And it's me and Mike on a team, our niece, and we win the tournament. We play another tournament. We win it again. And new guys doing Bush League stuff, right? He's like yelling at people's back swings and their throws and everything like that. Total Bush League stuff. Everybody's getting angry about it. Now, like Paul said earlier, we're 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 beers deep at this point, having a good time, enjoying draft day. Start playing this game, putter ball. And we're playing putter ball, and it's me and Arnice again, and Paul and New Guy are playing on the same squad. And Arnice and I are knocking their butts in again. And all of a sudden, New Guy says, I'm going to assault you with this putter. And that just set Mikey off. Mikey's like, what? And he's like, you're going to assault me? That's it. Throws a beer off Paul's house. I don't know what he was doing there. Next thing I know, that like set FF Advantage off. He goes storming after Mikey. I swear, I saw the look of death in Paul's eyes. He was going to literally throw Mikey through the roof. Luckily, for Mikey's sake, I grab Paul. Paul's like, throws paper towels at him. That was his move. It was like hurricane coming through Puerto Rico, and Trump's there throwing paper towels at people. And Mikey goes inside. He starts crying. Next thing you know, FF Advantage goes running outside after New Guy, throws him across the yard. Thankfully, CrossFit Santana's in the house. He's lifting weights, carrying, he doesn't even buy the 12-ounce drinks anymore. He gets the pounders because the 12-ounces are too light for him.
I never saw somebody put on a mask as fast as Santana put on a mask to get between you. But I think the most underrated part of that is Mazza did too. Mazza got in the middle of it too. And just got removed by one hand by Paul. And all Mazza kept saying is just go home. Everybody go home. Everybody go home. It was great. But I never heard just pure Paul pushed that kid, just pure meat on meat. Just it was great.
It was perfect time for Paul to freeze up there too.
Yeah,
he did freeze.
That big old freeze.
I love it.
I had no idea what was going on. Me and Pete were just sitting back in the chair head, and missed all of it. Thought it was all just a big joke, everything was going on. That's when I left too. At that point.
Well, that's when kind of things went downhill, right?
That's kind of a downer to everything.
New Guy called up the fiance to come pick him up. He was going to stay over. He bounced early. Our niece went back into his room and started crying. Came out and said, what do? I told him he needs to apologize to everybody. He's like, I'm not apologizing. You know how, he can be. And, it was just a disaster from there. Disaster.
So the new guy, as we'll put it, when I was leaving, so I would just say my goodbyes and gathered up my stuff, and I didn't realize I think he had been boozing pretty good all day.
Well, he said he was pre-gaming before he even came over to the draft.
Yeah, he had to be I realized at this moment.
He said he had chores at the house to do and started doing them before he went to the draft.
Yeah, so he was just housed. I walk out in the front yard, and he's just in the front yard rolling around trying to get his shoes on. Because his fiance was coming to pick him up, and I was just like, "Hey man, I'll see you later." He's like, "Yeah, I gotta go home, I think." And he's trying to put his shoes on. I was like, "Oh, all right, well, that explains where this started all going downhill, progressively more."
So I'm sure he'll be invited back next year. DJ Qualls.
I honestly, I think if he was to come back, Rivera definitely wouldn't come.
Yeah, Rivera was actually, this is when I realized, and this is what I said to the New Guy after. I had drinks with him last night and dinner. I said, listen, man. He's like, I wasn't out of line. I'm like, no, you came in ball busting. That you were trying to fit in. That's what we all do. We ball bust there, right? That's what draft is. Make fun of everybody about everything. Nothing's off limits at that point.
Yeah, I apologize that I got kicked off on that great story about myself. I'm obviously not some of my finer moment. But I want to actually give an honorable mention to one of the funniest things that I thought happened at the draft. And there's a quick backstory to the listeners on this one. So we have this rule, we'll call it the socks rule, right? Where you always have that guy or some of guys that just always pick a guy that's already been drafted. Every league has it. But Sox is the guy in our league that the rule is named after because he does it every year, multiple times. He's the guy that, 2 years ago tried to take Odell Beckham in the 9th round kind of guy. So this year, caveat, you could probably tell the story better than me, but how great was it when we were on intermission, we were on a break, and he walked over to you, and I want to say it was probably around the 14th round, caveat. I think that was our last break, and he came over to you and all sly and all slick kind of gives you a little whisper in your ear. He's like, you're not going to be drafting a quarterback, all right? Because you two were right next to each other, back to back.
Yeah.
And you go ahead, tell the story because it was hysterical.
Who was the player? I can't remember who the player was.
Cam
Cam
Newton.
Newton. Yeah. So he comes over to me and we're on break and he has I have the pick and then it was him. We were back to back. So he like comes over and he whispers to me, right? He goes, "You're not gonna pick a quarterback next, are you?" And I was like, "No, I already have a quarterback. Like I'm good. Don't worry about it." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go with quarterback out of Auburn, Cam Newton." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Cool, man." And he like walks away from me, but then he goes to like 3 other people and he's like, "I'm gonna pick Cam Newton. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna pick Cam Newton. This is gonna be great." Now Cam Newton's been gone for 3 rounds at this point.
At 3 rounds. And it's funny because he was so sure of himself and he was so proud to go tell everybody because they couldn't do nothing about it because he was the next on the clock after you. He knew you weren't going to take him for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. And then of course when he makes the announcement and he's like,
well, the shit part is real quick. The shit part is we're on break, right? Like you could walk up and look at the draft board, study it, make sure he wasn't picked, right? Like this is your opportunity to not pull a socks rule when you're socks.
That's why.
And he does it himself.
And the best part was about somewhere around round 7, he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, is there any chance that we can rename this rule because I don't really do it as much anymore?" And he did it again. Yeah.
Right.
But even his announcement of it, like, "I'm going to pick the quarterback that's replacing the greatest of all time quarterback in," like, he went on for about a solid 30 seconds describing Cam Newton before he actually said the name. And we're all just sitting there like giddy little girls waiting for him to say Cam Newton. And we're like, "Oh, you're an idiot."
Because by this point, obviously, I had gone to everybody else in the league and been like, Griebel's going to take Cam Newton, and he's so proud of himself. So that everybody was just ready to scream when he drafted him. So, Ed, for anybody that hasn't drafted yet, or if they have drafted and they're not happy with their fantasy football name, you had some suggestions for them, right?
Yeah, they're not that good, though.
No. So the way we came up with this little portion of this was Eddie came, everybody comes up with funny names or tries to come up with funny names. Eddie's, I would say, is the best play on words in our league. He's always been. Ever since he won it, he had Drew Brees, and he said, "I farted, smell the breeze." He's always come up with classics. So this year he came up with one, and, we asked him, "Ed, come up with like a top 5 because this one you did this year just kills it." So roll it back 5-1.
5-1?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go, I don't know, Dobbins for apples. That one's stupid.
You're a dad now.
Yeah, that one's 5. That one's 5. That's old, or bad. But I don't know. I like Rager's can't be choosers.
I like it.
I like that one.
Yeah,
I dig it.
I like it.
Is it?
And then probably besides mine, Munchin Ruggs after the wide receiver for the Raiders. I think my favorite that I came up with was Bearded C. Lamb for CeeDee Lamb. But if you look at it, Bearded Clam.
Yeah.
I love
I like that one. Again, my favorite is the one you came up with in our league. Like going back to Rivera, he came back to the text thread right away and said, "Oh, that's the best. Munchin Ruggs is phenomenal." Ed, obviously you took Ruggs, wide receiver for the Raiders. I thought that was a great play for sure.
I did like Burrow.
Yeah, I think he's going to be their number 1. I might be starting him after week 1. I don't know, depending on I don't know. I have Brandon Cooks, who is a question mark in Houston, and Deontay Johnson, who I think is going to be the new Juju Smith-Schuster from like 2 years ago with Big Ben. But Ruggs is definitely my wide receiver 3/4 on my team.
I did like the Tommy's burrowed in your girly.
Yeah, that was a good one, Tom. I'll give you credit for that. That was good.
Well, Ed, I'm gonna be honest. I sat there and thought for like a long while after I saw yours. You know me, right? Like I'm always this type of guy. I see Eddie come out with a bunch of Rugs, and again, I never one up anybody. I always try. I always fail. But I have Joe Burrow and Todd Gurley on my team, so that I was just looking at names and burrowed in your Gurley was the best I could do. I don't know.
That's a good one because it's two names that It's punny.
Two names, one cup.
Yeah.
That was the name I had when I Sioux Girls. One cup was my championship year.
Yeah.
No, that was that's a 3-word pun or 3-player pun.
So
So let's talk about our draft a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like the actual drafting part is we talked about, the draft. Not everybody that's going to listen to this was there. So everybody that listens to this is going to actually have some input and take home on what we did in our draft. So Cav, let's do a little bit of that.
Yeah, well let's go over our drafts then real quick. Tom, we'll start with you. Kind of break down your team and
All right.
value picks you think you got.
So I don't think I got any value picks. I got Russell Wilson as my franchise keeper in the 9th round.
After that, it was kind of tough, right? With our franchises and how our league works, it was pretty tough. But, we're half-point PPR. I was able to get Devontae Adams in the 1st round. I had actually pick number 6 to start, but I traded back to 9 because I knew Paul wanted Clyde's Edward-Helaire, and I knew Arnice did. I had pick 5, and I knew Arnice wanted Clyde Edwards. So I was able to, as Paul calls it, take advantage of the, not-so-smart kids in our league and trade back, 3 picks in our 1st round to get an extra 3rd round and move up in the 6th round. So it worked out for me. Went Devontae Adams. I like him. Obviously, my running backs, like I said earlier, are kind of tough. Todd Gurley, I had the late 2nd round pick. Went Todd Gurley. 3rd round, was able to, again, thank you, Lawyer Pete, was able to get Travis Kelce in the 3rd because he went to Sean Watson before Paul and I. And Paul went George Kittle. So I was happy. If George Kittle was there, I may have passed him up for a different running back. But, Kelce you have to take, right? That offense is high-powered, scores the most points in the NFL, I think, the last 2 years. Won Super Bowl last year. They're going to do the same thing this year, so I had to go Kelce. Ended up with Lev Bell, but one of my favorite picks this year, goes underrated. Not a lot of people are talking about this guy. DK Metcalf, right? Like last year as a rookie, he had almost 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, I think. This year, I think, obviously, he's such a big body. And Russ Wilson and that offense is going to keep things moving this year. Obviously, with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, they signed Greg Olsen. They also have Hollister there as tight end. And then also they just recently signed Josh Gordon. So I think they're looking for the passing attack this year. Russ Wilson. DK Metcalf had the most red zone targets of, I think, any wide receiver last year. I see that trend continuing just because he's a big body. Other than that, I'm kind of worried about it. I have, obviously, here's my starting roster is Russ Wilson, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf. I got T.Y. Hilton, I think, in the 6th or 7th round. Todd Gurley, Lev Bell, Travis Kelce. I currently have Cohen starting, running back for the Bears with half-point PPR. I think he's going to be good with Montgomery out. He's going to continue getting his catches. Marlon Mack, John Brown. I think Joe Burrow, I got him round 15. One guy I like real late, especially because we have the franchise, Anthony McFarland, running back for the Steelers. He was stud at Maryland. I think he might actually, if James Conner slips up or gets injured again, I think he might be the starting running back in Pittsburgh at some point this year, whether it's for a couple games or for the remainder of the season. But I really like this guy. He has the burst of speed. He's a pretty decent size and hits the hole hard. So
that's my squad. I love it. I'm going to get it. Championship.
How about you, Paul?
Hold on. How about you, Paul?
I gotta be honest. I gotta wipe that bead of sweat off my head from listening to Tommy bark about how good that team is. The squad's beat. Gotta be honest. The more I look at it, the more I realize that team is terrible. But anyway, I'll switch over to my team, which isn't actually a good team, which is a really good team.
So I started off in the 4 spot, but I had Dalvin Cook last year. I didn't want to keep him this year. I knew if I kept that 4 spot, I had to go Dalvin Cook. Again, for listeners, we have a lot of keepers in our league and stuff that you're probably not aware of, but nonetheless, Dalvin Cook would have been the next on the board for me there at 4. So I ended up moving back to 6, and I decided to go with Kenyon Drake with my first overall pick. I've been high on Drake and Mixon all offseason. I love them both. Love them both. Keyword. High is the keyword. yeah, sure. So a big time Kenyon Drake truther this year. I think he's going to have a huge year. Last year my prediction was Dalvin Cook was going to have a huge year. He did. This year Kenyon Drake was going to have a good year. A great year, I think. So Kenyon Drake was my first pick off the board. I went DJ Moore, which I think is in the back end of the 2nd, which I think he's a solid wide receiver 1 from Cabby's Carolina Panthers. Last year went severely under the radar of top receivers. And then we already talked about it. I took George Kittle in the 3rd with the bargain pick there. Had to try to go back to a running back, but in our league there was 27 running backs already gone off the board by the time the 4th round came around. So I settled on David Montgomery, hoping for volume. Obviously, it's not starting out good with him being down for 2 to 4 weeks. So hopefully I can get him back and get me 200 plus carries and a little bit more productivity than last year for an RB2. Kept going on the wide receiver. I love my wide receivers this year. I went DJ Shark to continue the DJ trend. I got DJ Moore and DJ Shark as my 2nd receiver. Round 6 I went Cam Akers, who I think is going to be phenomenal for the Rams. And then I kept going on the wide receivers. They kept following me. I got Michael Gallup, who I think is quite honestly the best receiver in Dallas. Humble opinion. So I got him as my wide receiver 3. And round 8 could be my steal of the draft, could be my keeper next year. Obviously, we didn't know that going into this, but I got Antonio Gibson, who obviously has just got a huge boost for Adrian Peterson being released, and then moving on to a different team. So I think Antonio Gibson is going to be a huge win for me in the 8th round. Went a couple running backs. Big Ben was my quarterback for the season. I think I'm going to be fine with Big Ben as my quarterback. I got him in the 12th. And then basically I backed up. I got AJ Dillon in the 14th. I think he's going to be solid in relief of Aaron Jones in Green Bay. And I finished up my draft with, one second here, Mike Gesicki as a backup tight end. I think Mike Gesicki is a great late round tight end. If you can get him in the 12th, 13th round, I think he's going to be a solid tight end. So overall, I'm happy with my team. I'm struggling at the running back 2 position, but if Cam Akers or Antonio Gibson could come through for me in a breakout year, I think my squad's set. But RB2s are always a challenge in 12-man fantasy football league. So
I'll move over to go ahead.
Is that song is the old song two DJs and a microphone?
Yeah, I'm looking for some kind of like Michael. I could go 2 DJs and a Michael Gallup. Yeah.
I was just going through your list. That's what I did the entire time you talked. Was try to figure something out for you there. So
yeah, I just blacked out the entire time you talked.
Actually, Cabby,
a whole bunch of hot air.
Cabby, what you should be doing is looking at the 12 guys that are about to kick your teeth in week 1 when me and you match up.
Ooh-wee.
Kenyon Drake's not going to play. So
Kenyon Drake is asking, you got to stop reading that Onion news.
And I'm also projected to beat you.
What are you reading, the Fantasy Onion?
Projected to beat you. Ed, how about your team?
Well, me and Paul, we traded first and second round picks this year. So I ended up going with Dalvin Cook because Paul switched me
his 4th pick for my 6th pick. And, with a snake draft, we switched, second round picks as well. So he got coming back. You guys get the picture. Yeah. So I went with Dalvin Cook because I already franchised Aaron Jones in the 12th round, I believe. Yep. So I have Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones already as my 1-2. Aaron Jones, I'm a little not as high on this year as I was last year, I don't think, just because I think he busted a nut a little bit with Devontae Adams being injured. His 3 or 4 touchdown receptions were the weeks that Adams was out. So, maybe see a little regression there. But and Jamal Williams too, right? He did a lot when he got his opportunities. Yeah, but I mean Adams. He did so much they went and got Aaron Jones. Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is still the top dog, even though they probably do a little bit of a committee there, just to, that they've always done that in the last, 3 or 4 years, it seems like. But 3rd round pick, I didn't really have much to go with here. Paul and Tom, you guys went in front of me, both went with the tight ends, Kittle and Kelsey. I was hoping one would fall to me. But I think A.J. Brown, who I got here, I think he's going to have a big year. Like, he's a beast. He kind of reminds me of like an Andre Johnson, I think, but bigger. I think he's going to be a top 6 wide receiver this year, and that's going off his numbers from last year. Going down the order, or going down my draft board here, Melvin Gordon, big question mark coming, first year in Denver. Keenan Allen without Phillip Rivers as my number 2 wide receiver, another question mark. Tyrod Taylor as his freaking quarterback. Tyrod did all right in Buffalo, man. He kept wide receivers relevant there. I know. I feel like either scrambles or has an arm, kind of like a Josh. Who's ever in Buffalo now? I can't think of it. Josh Allen. Yeah. Kind of like him, kind of like a Lamar Jackson, where they're scramblers, but they also just gun it down the field every now and then. I think Keenan Allen's going to get hyper-targeted this year. That's just... I hope so. I really do. Just got paid. Yeah. He did, so I don't know. One of the best route runners in football, too, by the way. He's injury-prone, too, though. I don't know. I just have a bad feeling about this pick. That's all. And then next round, I went with DeAndre Swift. I know he's a little bit banged up now. He's been missing practices. I think he came back limited this past week. But everything that I read going into our draft saying Swift was probably one of the most explosive backs for the rookie, out of all the rookies coming out. I took a gamble. Hopefully it pans out. I hope that he's the starter there after, the first few weeks go by and he's healthy again, and Kerryon Johnson is kind of out of the picture. But I do have high hopes for Swift. Hopefully he pans out for me. And then, went with a couple wide receivers that, question marks for Brandon Cooks. Ruggs, rookie. I know he's going to be their number 1 in Munchin Ruggs going there. Yeah, he's their number 1 in Munchin Ruggs. Yeah, you called it. But with the Raiders, Derek Carr, I don't know. I know they have Darren Waller there too, but with Edwards. Another rookie. Another one, yeah. Rookie Edwards, too. He's on my team. And they have, Henry Renfrow, and they have a bunch of guys. And I know Hunter Renfrow. Also on my team. Hunter Renfrow, yeah. Deontay Johnson, who I think is going to have a big year for me. I really do. I mentioned it before. I think he's going to take up that Juju Smith role that Juju actually had when he was playing behind Antonio Brown a few years back. So I have high hopes for Deontay. And then, going down, I have Cam Newton, Matt Stafford as my 2 quarterbacks.
And then, Jack Doyle, friggin' bum as my tight end because I didn't get a good one early. So
Eddie, you made sure you worked over that tight end the last 3 rounds in a row, huh?
Yeah, I already
literally went tight end.
I think I dropped 2 of them already. I dropped Jimmy Graham, I know.
Yeah, Herndon's going to be all right though. I'd keep Herndon around.
I think I did keep Herndon.
I
I
question.
was out for ice cream at that point.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
he nailed it in.
I think I dropped Jarek McKinnon and Jimmy Graham
Yeah.
for my defense and kicker. So.
Eddie, I have a question for you because I love both your quarterbacks, Stafford and Newton. Two-part question. One, which guy are you probably thinking you're going to start most season? And two, what do you want for the other one?
I think it's going to be matchup based. Like week 1, Cam Newton's playing Miami. I'm going to go, and Stafford has the Bears. Bears have a better defense than Miami, so I'm obviously going to go with Cam there. So it's going to be matchup based every week, I think. And I think I'll play Stafford more when they're playing at home. I know he's a better quarterback when they're playing in Detroit. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice. So on to the best draft of the day.
You just heard it.
Yeah. So I franchised Alvin Kamara, and I got lucky-ish, and I
ended up with the 12th overall pick, so I got Alvin Kamara at number 12, which is nice in the first round. And then we do a snake draft, so I had the 13th pick too. I went with Mike Evans there because I think Tom Brady is just the GOAT, and he's just going to sling to Mike Evans all season. So I think his numbers are going to be high, and it's going to be good. And then I had to sit around for a long time, and came back with the 12th pick of round 3. And like everybody else has said, running backs are few and far between our league, and they were going fast and furious. So took the best available at that part. Mark Ingram, who last year was a top 10 running back in fantasy football. I had him last year. He did great. He's going to scumbag touchdowns. He's not going to throw you a 100-yard game every week, but he's going to score the touchdowns. The only thing this season I'm worried about is he's 29. He's just turned 30, coming off being 29, and we know that running backs in that 30-year mark kind of start to fall off.
Is that usually what happens after 29?
Yep.
Turn 30. Are you concerned about J.K. Dobbins at all?
I'm not from everything I'm reading. I mean, I'm not afraid of Mark Ingram. I think he's still going to get the goal line touches.
Yeah.
I think Dobbins is going to. But also the Ravens ran the ball the most times in the NFL last year. They ran it 200 times more than the next closest team.
I mean, that's a lot of Lamar Jackson though too.
Yeah. No, that was running backs.
Just rush attempts.
Just rush attempts. So it's like
it's quarterbacks too.
Oh, does it? Well, whatever. Yeah. They still ran the ball.
Gabby, in your defense, Mark Ingram is the second best running back on your team, so it was a good pick.
Yeah, well, I'm aware. So then in round 4, Cooper Kupp, wide receiver. I didn't love that pick, but it was the best available player, so that's what I went with. I'm really happy with my first 6 rounds, though, honestly.
So you took Cooper Kupp over Robert Woods.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a Robert Woods guy, but
listen,
here's
the
thing. The one thing I'll say about that is Bobby Woods' stats were inflated a little bit. He's a catch machine, gets a ton of targets, doesn't score many touchdowns at all. Look at Cooper Kupp's numbers last year. He had, I think, more targets, more receptions than Robert Woods, and then had, I think, 7 more touchdowns than Robert Woods last year too. So I'm trying to put into perspective for
Jared Goff's favorite target.
I'm just trying to put into perspective for our listeners. Cabby said that, wide receivers were kind of out, but he gave up, Robert Woods, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett, Terry McLaurin, DJ Shark, Keenan Allen. All those guys came after Cabby picked Cooper Kupp. So
I just want to put in perspective.
I cannot wait to whip your ass in week 1 with this shitbag of a team.
I just want to put into perspective for our listeners that I've won this league before and Paul hasn't. So
also put in perspective, too, the bet you have out there.
I will. We'll come back to that. Round 5, Will Fuller, because I have to have Will Fuller on my fantasy football team. It's just kind of how it works. But I also like getting him as the last pick in round 5. He put on 20 pounds of muscle. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt week 2. Maybe he can make it to week 5 this year. Round 6, I picked Tom Brady because quarterbacks started going off the board, and I think he's going to put up numbers this year down there. They're building the team around him. And then round 7, I went Curtis Samuel. I think that's when my beard started hitting me. I don't know what I did. He's not even on my team anymore.
That's when the beard started?
That's when the beard started working or not working, whichever way you want to put it.
Yeah, I was going to say round 6 when you took Tom Brady.
You took Tom Brady over Kyler Murray? Nope. I like Tom Brady over Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
A sure thing.
Good play. I would always go with a 42-year-old over a 24-year-old.
When he's Tom Brady.
Sure. And you stacked. I like your stack, him and Mike Evans.
Exactly. And then, round 8, I went Kerryon Johnson. He was just, at the time, the top-ranked running back. I needed another running back. Not in love with him, but I'm confident enough for him to be my flex.
Tommy, what do you think about Kerryon?
I love him. He stays healthy. I think he led the league last year in yards per carry. I think he was at like 5.3 yards per carry last year.
What do you have, 22 carries?
Led the league. Got hurt. Killed me. It was more than that. Take it easy on the guy. Right? Round 9. Turf monster there in Detroit always gets everything.
Unless Barry Sanders comes back, I'll stay away from Detroit running backs.
Round 9, I went with Deshaun Jackson. I'm happy with that. He's the number 1 receiver there now. Every other receiver.
Get Deshaun Jackson circa like 2015 stats, or what are you doing?
He had a big week 1 last year. Yeah, he only played 1 week last year, and it was huge. Yeah. But also, there's no, everybody's hurt. And he's the number 1 receiver in Philadelphia now. So, he's gonna do something.
Well, and the quarterback's hurt too, so. And their star running back and
Yeah, so you're gonna-
their whole offensive line.
What the hell's going on with Philly? So they're just going to hope that Deshaun Jackson can run down the field really fast and catch the ball. So that's what we're banking on. Round 10, Zach Moss, looking like now he's going to be the starter in Buffalo. So I'm happy with that pick. I think a good value pick, round 11. I think Austin Hooper is going to be a stud as long as Baker Mayfield can get his shit together. And then, I got my next stack if I need to. If, 43-year-old Tom Brady kind of falls apart, we got Baker Mayfield coming into his third season, feeling comfortable with the offense. I think he's going to do okay. As a backup, I'll take that. We come down to Corey Davis, who I've been hot on for about 5 years now since we started this podcast. He's eventually got to have a good season. What's that?
Plus.
I'm still doubling down on picking him to be like one of the best people from the 2016 draft class or whatever.
Michigan, baby.
Round 14, I went with Carlos Hyde. I already dropped him. Round 15, I went with Hunter Renfrow. I think he has the potential, depending on what ends up going on there in
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, yeah, that's where they are now. He's your Julian Edelman type guy. He had a great season last year. He had six games over 100 yards and scored a couple touchdowns. So if he becomes that dump off guy, then I'm happy with that. Round 16, I took a kicker, Fairbairn, and then Mr. Irrelevant.
In the last pick of our draft, I took Greg Olson as my second tight end.
Another homer pick for Cavi.
Just a big old homer pick there. I just love Greg Olson, and I love that he just refused to play in Carolina after what they did to my boy Cam Newton. So that's where we're at with my draft, and I'm going to kick Paul's ass this week. Like projections say, start off the season good, and then really this year, if we're talking serious, I'm just playing for 10th place. We have this side bet in our league with Mikey, who was flapping his gums and based off of
almost got them punched off his mouth
by Paul, but by running his mouth and saying that basing it off of after consolation last year where I came in 10th place. He, said that he didn't think I could come in better than 10th place. So he bet me $150. So I'm really just playing for 10th place this year and $150 and my league fee's done. But then if I win the league, there's a $150 bonus on top of that. So, take another trophy home, win an extra $300 on top of the pot inside of our league and make Mikey look foolish, which is just even better.
That's a no-brainer bet, Cav, on your end.
How do you not take that? I had to finish in the top 80% of the league.
Yeah.
I just can't be in the bottom 20%. You got to take it. Just can't come in last or second to last place.
You're just playing numbers there. It's a numbers game.
In fairness, to put it into perspective, other than the year that Cavi won it, I think he's either finished in 11th or 12th every other year.
No, I haven't. I finished 6th and 5th. We've been over this.
You have not finished 6th or 5th ever.
Yes, I did.
I got to relook that up.
The last 2 years, I finished 10th and 12th. The years before that, I've only been in the league for 4 years, man. I won it. I finished 5th. I came in 10th, and I came in 12th.
Okay. You said 6 somewhere in there, too, I heard.
6th or 5th.
Okay.
I hear a niner in
there.
Well,
I listen, here's the thing. Here's what I'll tell you, Cavi. I think that your team is built to do exactly what you want to do, and that's get 10th. And I think that the fact that I get to play you twice this year, I'm going to put 2 big L's next to your name.
Are we at a little side bet here?
Yeah.
100%. A little week one side bet?
I'm not a dummy better like some people that you take advantage of. But I will put my money where my mouth is and say, if you want to go straight up $100, my team versus your team, who has the more, who finishes better?
No, I'm talking about for week one. So a podcast based.
Yeah, without a doubt, we'll definitely do some kind of.
Well, we got to do it now because this comes out in 2 days, and then there's the season.
All right.
Well, and then the best part is, I was already asked when obviously I tweeted out that we were doing this tonight. I was already asked on a private chat, will I be shaving or waxing my armpits tonight? So people are already looking for it. How about this? How about I come up with 4, Cavi and Paul? Let's do this. Let's put it out to the voter.
Pepper.
Loser gets to plow the winner's wife.
You don't have one.
Oh. No. By law, he still does, Joe. By law, he still does.
And thank you guys for tuning in and coming back to the Point After Show. We're
back, baby. It's going to be pure fantasy football coming on.
And a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, a whole lot of nonsense, a lot of football knowledge, right? As I said on our text thread was when Paul resent out the iTunes link, it was awesome, right? This what got me more motivated than ever to do this was I looked at some of the comments. There were like 30, 40 comments. We have a 5-star rating, and it was like funny people you want to hang out with and talk fantasy football with real stats, real knowledge that's going to help you win your fantasy league. And that's what we are. That's what we pride ourselves on. So make sure you give us a listen to on iTunes, on YouTube, subscribe for sure. This is what we're doing for fun, guys. So listen up.
No cookie cutter, just a whole lot of shit talking.